Most Hollywood tales fade with the last line of the credits, but this one only ignited after the house lights came up. Snow White, the film Disney once flaunted as a guaranteed triumph, has morphed into a cautionary saga where ticket sales, ideological divides, and hard-edged legal letters clash louder than any enchanted mirror could predict. Viewers were told to expect fairy tale magic. Instead, they got a real-world showdown that's rewriting the careers of its two stars and rattling the studio that bankrolled it. So, how did a beloved story become a multi-million-dollar minefield? Keep watching, because the deeper we dig, the sharper the shards of this shattered looking glass become. When the final receipts trickled in, the numbers looked less like a Disney dream and more like a spreadsheet nightmare. The live-action remake cost an eye-watering $269 million to produce, marketing not included, yet its worldwide gross is stalled at about $200 million, scarcely 3/4 of the budget. Analysts initially downplayed the red ink, arguing the family market takes time to mature. But Wall Street whispered a harsher diagnosis. Too many parents stayed home, too many kids scrolled past, rival studios smirked, shareholders frowned, and Disney accountants watched the deficit balloon, fearing this flop could eclipse even the Lone Ranger's infamous shortfall. But beneath the clacking calculators, subtler tremors were already shaking the ground. Rumors of two headline stars whose off-screen chemistry froze faster than a poisoned apple. And that, insiders say, is where the real drama started. Early warning signs hid in plain sight. Red carpet photographers captured stiff smiles that looked stapled on. Interview clips circulated where Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler answered questions without glancing at each other, their posture angled like mismatched bookends. At the Oscars in March, viewers spotted Gadot adjusting her gown rather than meeting Zegler's gaze, while backstage chatter described the atmosphere as Arctic polite. A week later, a scheduled joint appearance on a popular morning show evaporated with no official explanation, setting Twitter ablaze. Then came the New York Post leak that Zegler allegedly called Gadot a professional pageant queen after the ceremony, a barb that cut deeper once amplified by millions of retweets. The public still assumed it was ordinary diva friction, but studio insiders knew something heavier was brewing. The fuse finally sparked when Gadot's representation delivered 3 formal cease and desist letters to Zegler's team, warning that any unfounded, harmful claims about on-set behavior would trigger swift legal retaliation. Lawyers seldom bluff in Tinseltown. Investments and reputations hang in the balance. Within days, Zegler's planned media blitz, a primetime talk show spot, a long-form podcast titled Rachel's Side of the Story, and a glossy magazine feature vanished from promo schedules. One publicist admitted, off-record, that the legal notices landed like concrete. Fans noticed the sudden silence and, predictably, filled the vacuum with wilder theories. Some insisted Zegler held explosive receipts. Others argued Gadot had coldly neutralized her rival before any allegations could stick. Whatever the truth, the message was clear. This conflict had migrated from social media spats to court-ready seriousness, and the chill didn't stop there. Long before depositions were drafted, philosophical fault lines had opened during production. Zegler campaigned for a fiercely self-reliant Snow White, one who would never wait for a prince, echoing her outspoken activism on issues from pay equity to immigrant rights. Gadot, while far from traditionalist, urged a softer modernization that kept a thread of classic optimism. Their perspectives clashed further over global politics. Zegler tweeted in support of several progressive causes, while Gadot, a former IDF soldier, voiced solidarity with Israel at the height of Middle Eastern tensions. Cast dinners reportedly spiraled into tense debates disguised as creative discussions, with crew members recounting forced smiles and early rap calls that felt suspiciously convenient. As one lighting tech joked, the only sparks on set were ideological, and yet Disney kept betting that audiences would never notice, until the press tour exposed every crack. By spring, the studio's crisis control apparatus was working overtime. Executives convened more emergency Zooms than production meetings, trying to seal leaks faster than bloggers could post them. A behind-the-scenes commentary track for the Disney Plus release, a routine value ad, was quietly shelved after both actors refused to appear together. So too were blooper reels showcasing cast camaraderie. Marketing teams feared side-by-side footage would look painfully forced. One senior VP allegedly sighed, "The less we show of them together, the safer we are." Meanwhile, outside Burbank, Financial analysts flagged Snow White's red ink in quarterly previews, and a barren summary warned that Disney's string of remakes had finally collided with audience fatigue and internal discord. Every spreadsheet line glowed crimson, and still the feud deepened. While Disney scrambled, the reputational fallout for its leads split in opposite directions. Industry chatter labeled Zegler high maintenance and too online, an unpredictable risk at a time when studios crave safe bets. Agents whispered that she had lost control of the narrative by nearly launching a blame-shifting tour, then vanishing without closure, an abrupt retreat that looked like capitulation. Workshops and casting sessions, where her name once commanded excitement, now featured uncomfortable pauses. As one streaming executive quipped, "You can survive a flop. You can't survive torching your co-star on the way down." In contrast, Gadot's restraint earned quiet applause. Her public appearances stayed on script. Red carpets, charity galas, a single late-night spot where she refused to name names while referring to challenging dynamics. Recruiters interpreted the calm as professional maturity, and in Hollywood, perception shapes paychecks. Gadot's calculated detachment is no accident. Her camp reportedly coined an internal mantra: stabilize, don't sensationalize. They booked high-profile magazine shoots framing her as an emblem of resilience, not a gossip magnet, and accepted roles in 2 prestige directors' upcoming films, ensuring headlines would pivot to future projects, not lingering accusations. One talent manager described the strategy as image inoculation, an early booster shot against any rumor resurgence. By contrast, Zegler's social media hiatus bred speculation. Is she rewriting a tell-all? Is she bound by settlement? Without new posts, every old tweet was re-scrutinized, each comment mined for hidden subtext. The silence grew heavier than any statement she could have issued, and the longer it lasted, the clearer it became that Gadot's legal gambit had bought her breathing room, perhaps at the exact moment Zegler needed noise the most. Beyond personal reputations, the clash exposes a harsh industry truth. Modern blockbusters can't afford unchecked off-screen drama. Disney's previous live-action gambles, Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, survived polarizing chatter because their stars rallied together when it counted. This time, the wounds cut too deep, and the marketing machine couldn't craft a neat fairy tale bow. Analysts now predict Disney will rethink politically charged pairings and tighten morality clauses in contracts. A leaked memo warns of reputational contagion, the idea that one star's controversy can sink an entire tentpole. It's corporate jargon for an ancient lesson. Audiences want magic, not mudslinging. If the spell breaks, the castle crumbles. And in Burbank's corner offices, every canceled featurette and empty theater seat reinforces that fear. So, what's left after the glass coffin shatters? Snow White still streams to curious subscribers who press play just to witness the film that sparked a Cold War. Zegler reportedly weighs a quiet re-emergence. Indies, perhaps, where story matters more than spectacle, while Gadot glides into her next franchise with a reinforced armor of unflappable professional. Disney itself stitches lessons into its playbook: vet political alignments, design escape clauses, and remember that legacy IPs can't rescue a brand if the storytellers implode. The tale ends less like happily ever after and more like an uneasy truce, a mirror cracked but not shattered beyond reflection. And that leaves one final question hanging in the rafters. If the fairest of them all can't survive modern Hollywood without collateral damage, what hope is there for the next remake lining up at the studio gates? Maybe princes, poisoned apples, and even magic mirrors were never the real illusion. The true fantasy was believing that billion-dollar corporations and still rising celebrities could share a spotlight without letting ego eclipse the fairy tale. Snow White has shown us that in the kingdom of content, off-screen reality writes the harshest plot twists, ones no audience and no executive will forget anytime soon.